Now, some remarkable pictures to show you now of space junk falling to Earth. These images of light trails in the sky, thought to be the space debris from the Long March 5 re-entering Earth's atmosphere. The rocket was launched into space last Sunday. China's space agency said most of its remains burnt up in the atmosphere, identifying the Sulu Sea in the Pacific as the re-entry location. And just before we go, let's take you live to Trafalgar Square in central London, where fans are gathering for a celebration of last night's victory by England's women footballers. They beat Germany 2-1 at Wembley Stadium. Up to 7,000 supporters will have the opportunity to join the team at an event hosted by ex-player Alex Scott. Plenty more coverage live from Trafalgar Square here on BBC News. Stay with us.
Hello, you're live with Nancy Kacungira on BBC World News. The first ship carrying Ukrainian grain has now left the port of Odessa under a deal aimed at easing a global food crisis. Ukraine's foreign minister calls it a day of relief for the world. The UN Secretary General hopes it will be the first of many.
The vessel is now around 50 kilometres into the Black Sea, but the military admits it's more of a test before further decisions are made.
New Zealand fully reopens its borders for the first time since they were closed in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Tributes are paid after Nichelle Nichols, the trailblazing Star Trek actress, dies at the age of 89. The Lionesses celebrate their historic victory with their fans after England wins its first major tournament in almost 60 years. In the next half hour, we'll hear from our correspondents in Ukraine and in Sydney. Welcome to the programme and thank you for joining us. The first shipment of Ukrainian grain has left the port of Odessa. The vessel carries more than 26,000 tons of corn. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the departure. Razoni took off from the port of Odessa this morning and is making its way south on the Black Sea. Now, it's expected to arrive in Turkish waters tomorrow noon, and it will then go through inspection in Istanbul by the Joint Coordination Centre. After that, it will make its way out of the Bosphorus Strait and past the Aegean and Mediterranean seas, finally arriving in the port of Tripoli in Lebanon. You're live with Nancy Kacungira. Still to come, a look at the legacy of the former Star Trek legend Nichelle Nichols, best known for playing Lieutenant Uhura, who has died age 89. And we'll hear about England fans celebrating the Lionesses' historic victory. You're live with Nancy Kacungira. Thanks for staying with us. Search and rescue crews continue to look for survivors in the U.S. state of Kentucky, where record flooding has wiped out entire communities. At least 28 people have died. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes has the latest.
Say they need and now truly deserve.
Stay with us on BBC News. You're live on BBC World News. I'm Nancy Kacungira. After weeks of negotiation, the first shipment of Ukrainian grain sails from the port of Odessa. Razoni is carrying more than 26,000 tons of Ukrainian corn and heading to Lebanon. New Zealand fully reopens its borders for the first time since they were closed in response to the coronavirus pandemic. The Lionesses celebrate their historic victory with their fans after England wins its first major tournament in almost 60 years. In the next half hour, we'll hear from our correspondents in Russia, Australia and Lebanon. Welcome to the program. Glad you could join us. The first shipment of Ukrainian grain has left the port of Odessa. The vessel carries more than 26,000 tons of corn. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has welcomed the departure. Razoni took off from the port of Odessa this morning and it's making its way south in the Black Sea. It's expected to arrive in Turkish waters on Tuesday at noon and go through inspection in Istanbul by the Joint Coordination Center. It will then make its way out of the Bosphorus Strait and past the Aegean and Mediterranean seas, finally arriving in the port of Tripoli in Lebanon. The whole journey is expected to take about 1 week. Shaima Halil reporting there. You're live with Nancy Kacungira. Still to come, wildfires on the US West Coast and deadly flooding further east. We'll look at what's behind some extreme weather events. And we'll have the latest for you from London's Trafalgar Square as England football fans wait to celebrate with the women's team who are champions of Europe. Hello there, you're live with Nancy Kacungira. England fans are celebrating after their side won the European Women's Football Championship. The Lionesses' 2-1 victory over Germany came just 56 years after England's men beat West Germany in the 1966 World Cup final, the only other major trophy won by an England senior team. Queen Elizabeth said the players would be an inspiration for girls and women. Let's go to this report by Mark Lebel. Let's take you back now to the live pictures coming in from Trafalgar Square in central London, where England fans are gathering. As you can see, those huge crowds gathered there now, waving their flags. We will, of course, have a special live event in a few minutes as that euphoria continues. That final against Germany was watched by a peak UK television audience of 17.4 million people. That made it the most watched women's football game ever in the UK. And of course we will bring you more live coverage from that event as England celebrates that historic win, having woken up as champions. You can see those scenes from Trafalgar Square. The fans are still celebrating after a long night of the same, waking up as champions. Many people saying that this Euros will change women's football forever. How might it do that? Well, we'll be discussing that and more. Do stay with us here on BBC World News. I'm Nancy Kacungira. Don't go away. You're live on BBC World News. I'm Nancy Kacungira. After weeks of negotiation, the first shipment of Ukrainian grain sails from the port of Odessa. The Razoni is carrying more than 26,000 tons of Ukrainian corn and heading to Lebanon. New Zealand fully reopens its borders for the first time since they were closed in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Pakistan's Prime Minister is in the provincial capital of the flood-affected Balochistan region to oversee relief operations. The Lionesses celebrate their historic victory with their fans after England wins its first major tournament in almost 60 years. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is visiting the provincial capital of the flood-affected Baluchistan region to oversee relief operations. The area has been badly hit by recent heavy monsoon rains. More than 100 people have died there, and there's also been damage to local roads and infrastructure. Prime Minister Sharif visited other affected areas in the province over the weekend. Let's go live now to Islamabad with our correspondent Pumza Filani. Pumza, this is quite a significant event. 100 people or more have already died. What's the latest? We'll break away from that and bring you live pictures now from Trafalgar Square in central London, where England fans are gathering to celebrate the women's football team's victory in the European Championship. England beat Germany 2-1 after extra time on Sunday. Now, this is the first time that a senior England football team has won a major trophy. Let's listen in.
How are you feeling today?
Pretty good. Nice that you're all here. Thank you for coming.
We know
on top of the world and on top of Europe. That's definitely permeating that fantastically jovial atmosphere at Trafalgar Square in London, where thousands of fans have showed up to celebrate England's victory in the Euro 2022 Championship. England captain Leah Williamson receiving a huge cheer when she says that Lionesses like to work hard but also to party hard. Do stay here with us on BBC World News.